Okay, this is The Law and Your Legacy. I'm attorney Pete Hamilton,
I'm attorney Ryan Hamilton.
and we're here today to discuss the many families lose generational wealth because they don't have a plan. They don't know how they're going to move forward. There are several options that are available, and of course, those options are to have a will or a trust. I think Ryan and I have maybe some disagreement on what is the best
It's like,
avenue that we should take, but uh, I think it's important that something is done, and you need to have a plan for your family. Um, I'll talk a little bit about a will. A will should be, it provides the instructions to your family on how your assets should be divided at the time of your death.
mm-hmm.
And whether those assets should go to certain individuals, and at the time that will is probated, or in Louisiana it's a succession,
Right.
you have to make those decisions. Now, I know you prefer sometimes a trust,
Right.
and what is your position on trust?
Well, I'll start by saying that the difference. So the will is kind of instructions to the court of what you want to happen when you pass away, as you said. So there's nothing to do once you do that will. You do your will, you spend less money up front, and then you kind of put it in the closet and don't think about it. Whereas a trust, you're actually creating this entity where you then have to transfer your home. Sometimes you have to retitle your bank accounts. But what that does is that allows you or allows your family to not have to go through the succession process if it's done right. And I think the conversation me and you always have back and forth is you think that a trust is for someone who has a large, complicated estate, or you would recommend that a trust is not necessary unless you have, houses in different states, multiple different businesses, a lot going on. You would kind of say, hey, let's not complicate the process. Let's just do a will. And my argument is always they're both, you should do something. But if you want the VIP experience for your heir, if you want to roll out the red carpet for them so they don't have to come up with the money to do the succession when you pass away or be trying to gather all the assets and figure things out, you can do the trust now. It's in my opinion, a superior form of planning.
Well, we do agree on one thing, that you need to do something.
Right.
My position, and you've already stated it, a will simplifies everything for you now. You can make sure the distribution goes to the heirs that you've named in the will.
Correct.
And you're right. My position is that if you own a single house, of one bank account, a will is sufficient. I don't think that you need to go to the expense of having a trust completed today. Now, I know you have some points that you want to make about a trust being, number one, it can be done not in a time of
grief,
of
right?
grief.
Yeah, we're doing it while everybody's alive.
And you can also have instructions of how the distribution can be handled, and the beneficiaries can have not have full control of the money until a certain time.
Right.
I just believe that when there's a single house and in a bank account, that is pointless to even do a trust. But that's not my decision to make.
Right.
The decision is more to the individual, and they have to decide what works for them.
I would say that it's absolutely a subjective thing whether or not you choose to do a will and then have your children pay for a succession or whoever your heirs are after you pass away, or do the trust. But objectively, there are things that a trust can do that a will cannot do.
And what are those things?
Those things are limiting how someone is spending the property that you're giving them. So the will is never going to become any type of asset protection venue for your child. You wouldn't be able to save them from themselves with the will, because if you give them property in the will, it's theirs. They have it, meaning they can spend it however they want, and any creditors or people that may sue them or judgments can easily attach to that money. But with a trust, we know we can put a pool of money for younger beneficiaries, whether those are grandchildren, when you have younger children, and we can say, hey, you can only spend this money for a down payment on a house, or you can only spend this money for education. You have the ability to save your children or your heirs or beneficiaries from themselves, which you can't really do through a will.
And I agree with that. But again, it goes back to my point of whether you have sufficient assets
Right.
to justify. I clearly believe that an individual that has a business operating, and that business has employees. They own a significant amount of real estate. They have many other assets that a trust is probably something that they would consider. But going back to our original point, so many times in our community, we don't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
So if we could just get folks to consult with their attorney,
Right.
to find out what is the best avenue for them, then they can make a decision of what works. You and I probably disagree for the rest of our lives about what works better.
Right.
But we do agree that many times in our community, we just don't do enough as it relates to transferring our estate.
That's right.
To our heirs.
That's right.
To our loved ones, to individuals that we decide we want to go. Now, with the trust, there's some guarantees that you can have better control about how the money is distributed on the back end, or when they get to take, whether there's money set up. But again, a trust can be set up within a will too. So you could actually have a will that identifies a trust within it.
That's right. Testamentary trust.
Yeah. So I guess we
Well, one other point. If you own property in multiple states, then that means you have to pay for two separate successions, right? Or probate in the other state, as it's called, in a succession here. So to have a trust for that would be kind of that's if a person has property in two different states, then I'm going to suggest to them that you might want to consider that, because now your heirs not only have to deal with one set of courts and lawyers, they have to deal with two sets in a different state.
Well, we talk about what is good in making the transition of wealth. Earlier, you and I were talking about the fact that during Katrina, many families did not have any tool.
Right.
They did not have the will in place, nor did they have a trust in place. At least if they would have had a trust in place, and I agree with you that as each generation passed, there would have been a transfer of the ownership to whoever the beneficiaries are.
Right.
What happened during Katrina is that individuals, the 3, maybe 4 generations of individuals did not complete. They didn't complete a will. They didn't complete a succession. And so when their property was destroyed by Katrina, they had problems in getting money from the road home.
Right.
Where if they would have had a trust in place, that ownership would have continued to pass on.
And that goes to another one of my arguments on why a trust may be better, because if you have the will, number one, we could lose the will. We always hear about, I think they had a will, can't find the will.
Right.
So the will is lost. But if we're doing a trust, we're transferring that property into that trust right now, and that's in a public record, and we know who the executor is, we know who the trustee is. that person doesn't have to wait on the court to approve the will, go through that process and pay. They immediately are able to talk to the insurance company, sell the house if they want to, refinance the house. All of that's done and it's readily available. Now, I understand they cost more, and that's the downside, but they provide a whole lot more benefits. And a person just has to weigh that to say, hey, do I want to pay a little bit money up front and have a will, and I have something? We all agree that the will is better than not having a will, but there are things, even though it's going to cost you more money to get a trust, it's going to provide you several advantages of whenever you pass away, your children won't have the delay in contacting a lawyer, getting the will approved by the court to address issues like after Katrina, dealing with insurance companies, or any storm, right? There's been several storms since then where people have to deal with the insurance companies or the mortgage company. Liberty Bank is going to want their money, right? So we need somebody to be able to talk to the bank on behalf of the estate.
Right.
And so they can do that immediately with the trust, where the will, there is a process to go through at the time of grief, which is always my argument, to get the power to act on behalf of the estate for things like the house and bank accounts and everything like that.
I will only say this. So a lot of the families we were talking about in the case of the lower ninth ward, they had no wills. They had no wills at all. A will is a simple process. It's only going to cost a few $100s.
Right.
And again, if you only have a house and a bank account, maybe all you can afford is a few $100s.
Maybe so.
For someone to do a trust can be in the thousands of dollars.
Yes.
That just may not have readily available funds to be able to do that at this time.
Right.
Where upon your passing, there is some money in the bank, there is a house, the individuals can afford to pay at that time, where they can't afford to pay now.
That's right.
Sometimes
you can't afford to pay that much, and then maybe this is a good time to talk about an holographic will, which is completely free. Right. If it's written completely in the testator's handwriting and signed and dated, but we know that there are some challenges with that.
Right, because a holographic will is one that's written by your hand,
right,
not on a typewriter, in your own handwriting.
Right.
And at the end of the day, two people have to identify that was in fact your handwriting.
That's right.
So my suggestion is that at the end of the day, you need to go to see your lawyer, have a notary, and have someone to prepare a document for you. Right. Whether that document is a trust or will, again, as we said at the beginning of this, you need to do something.
I agree with that.
You agree with that point? Yeah, well, that's good. We finally agree on something.
We agree. That
well, it's a positive thing that we finally agree on one thing as it relates. You got to do something. As we make that final decision of what is the best option to go, a will. Again, you need to consult your attorney, but the process and having a will that you will state in that will who you want to represent your estate. You need to identify the individuals that you want your property to be distributed to. Mm-hmm. And you also, that will generally is notarial will, which would be notarized and witnessed by at least two witnesses, as opposed to a trust that would require what?
The trust would require some of those same things. The people would have different names, right? Instead of it being an executor, it would be a trustee, and instead of it being a legatee, it would be a beneficiary. So there's different terms, but you want to know who you're leaving your things to, who's going to be in control, who's the point person, and you want to gather all your assets so you know, hey, I'm leaving this to this person. I want to leave my house to my 3 children equally. I want to leave I don't know, my watch collection to my son. I want to leave my jewelry collection to my daughter, whatever the case may be. But I think step one is maybe start doing some research online of what these things are. I think step two would be to contact a lawyer. A lot of lawyers will give you a free consultation. Us being two lawyers, that would give you a free consultation to determine whether a will or trust is better for you. And then if there's absolute, you don't have time or you don't have the money, maybe consider an holographic will, and, you could talk about that.
Very good. Okay. Remember, this is not legal advice. This is just a tip brought to you by Liberty Bank and Trust. For more information, go to libertybank.net, or you can contact us at 504-915-5016.